Being a true crime YouTuber can be pretty wild. It's more than what we see on screen. At least it is for me, and it probably is for a lot of other true crime YouTubers, especially those more popular than I am, the ones who have a lot of subscribers. I'm talking like in the millions. It's wild. Just warning those people out there who think they might want to become a person who starts telling stories, the stories of victims, the stories of missing people, trying to help. There's lots that goes on behind the scenes. Some people get really touchy when you cover their crime cases. I understand why another YouTuber, I won't mention names, really great YouTuber, she makes the decision to only cover old resolved cases, no current cases, and she doesn't cover any cases, I believe, local to her. And I'm thinking that might be a good rule. Let me tell you why. Just a sampling of what I've been through over the years. Some people are just really with the ish, like I call it, really with the issues. Some people, of course, they reach out, they might beg you to cover their story. This one story, it's not getting any traction, no one knows about it. Maybe it's an incarcerated loved one. The person, they want them to be like a candidate maybe for the Innocence Project. Oh, my loved one doesn't belong in jail. They were done wrong. And you go through and you spend about $200 for the case files. You dig into it. You spend your time and energy. And then once you get the evidence, you're kind of like, maybe the jury got it right. Maybe that person is where they're supposed to be. Maybe not everything's a big conspiracy and the sheriff's office conspired against your loved one and that's why they're there. That's one thing. And then you know how there's the missing white woman syndrome. And so there was all this controversy about people of color not getting enough coverage. So again, I won't mention any names, but there was this beautiful young woman, 20-something, went missing, African-American woman, and I thought, let me cover this case, help provide some eyeballs on her story. Where could she be? I dug into her case, dug into court records, dug into anything that was going on with her at the time. Nothing serious, maybe some financial issues, I don't know. Why did she disappear? Trying to bring light to her case. Well, that woman, after I covered her case, trying to shed light on her situation, she ended up issuing a privacy strike against the video I created just to try and help find her. I guess she was fine. So that's how that goes. Another wonderful young African-American woman, I covered her case only on Twitter, and recently she was kinder. She came back and said, okay, I'm found now. Can you delete this? So I get it. I deleted the tweet. I understand. Some people might go missing under mysterious circumstances, and of course, sometimes it is a crime. Sometimes people want to disappear. We don't know what they're going through. And, folks are begging us, true crime YouTubers, please shed light to the situation, please. All people of all colors. And you end up either getting a privacy strike or you end up getting asked to take it down, whatever. One crazy situation was this doctor. Now I have to be very careful because it's like I was blackmailed into signing an NDA over this dude. Very shady situation. I won't mention his name, of course. This man's wife lost her life under very mysterious circumstances. Very strange. I won't go into details, so you can't recognize who I'm talking about, but he will get his comeuppance. I created, of course, a video about it. I wanted her to get her justice. It doesn't look like, she died under normal circumstances, under a normal accident. The husband's story was really shady. He ended up getting arrested, but then he got out on some kind of technicality or something. I don't know if police just didn't have enough evidence to charge him with a murder charge and make it stick. I created a video about that situation, like I often do. A lot of women, victims of their husbands. He hires this shady law firm. I'll just call it shady. There's a lot of shadiness going out there. Shady ways of making money. He hired this shady law firm to copyright strike the video I made and basically blackmail me into taking it down. The only way they would take it down was if I signed an NDA saying basically never to cover him again, never mention his name again. I signed it because most YouTubers know, 3 strikes, you're out. So people know how to play the system. They know how to abuse the copyright system in order to try and silence people. So fine, I took it down. I know God sees all. God knows what happened in that situation with that husband and wife, and I'm just waiting for the headlines. I thought to myself, you know what? Whenever he's rearrested, whenever he's convicted or on trial or whatever, don't you worry. Don't worry about me covering him or not covering him anymore. ABC, Dateline, all of those guys will have a field day with that doctor and whatever he did to his wife, allegedly. Also, as a true crime YouTuber, you might have the subjects, the subjects of the crime somehow peripherally involved. They might start talking about you. Remember when Stephen Stearns' mom talked about me on the jail phone calls and, his dad called me Blunder instead of Plunder? That was a little more lighthearted. I've got more Stephen Stearns stuff coming up too. For those of you who followed that case out of Florida, of course, I've got more of his jail files, and I have more coming. I purchased a lot from the DOC, and I'll get more, so that'll be coming up too. Stay tuned for that. Considering all these things that go on behind the scenes, not just writing the scripts and not just researching the cases, purchasing the court documents, the videos, putting them together, presenting them, editing, performing video editing, so we try and put it in a nice package, and getting jail phone calls, like you'll probably hear throughout this video.
But there are going to be some very heavy restrictions upon your release.
I know.
That fall on your dad and I, and you.
I know.
Plunder.
Okay.
You keep telling me this.
Okay, Molly. I'm a mom.
Okay, but you don't need to keep telling me this.
Okay.
I just went through this.
I know, sweetie.
You don't need to keep telling me this.
Okay. All right, so listen, Molly. We'll just back up a little bit.
All that going on behind the scenes, when people related to the case start contacting you, sometimes you're like, you're holding your breath, like, what is this going to be? Is someone with the ish again, or what? What's happening here? Sometimes it gives me visions of just quitting. I tell you what, you guys have seen some true crime YouTubers disappear, some of them of their own volition, some of them not posting for months. And sometimes I understand why. It's a lot more than people expect. Well, in light of all this, imagine how fulfilling it was this week when I literally got a message from one of the victims of Molly Elizabeth Duncan. I got a message from one of the victims' moms, one of the mothers of Molly's victims. It was an uplifting message. It was a wonderful message. It was an inspiring message. It's the kind of message that lets you know, okay, you're being helpful. This is why we do what we do. There's purpose here. There's a silver lining here. There's a way to warn other parents here. And that's the purpose of this video. Now, you might remember Molly Elizabeth Duncan. She's this Ohio ex-nanny, and I've talked about her quite a bit because surprisingly, I didn't even know they would give me 36 of her jail calls.
And the blanket is not long enough to cover you completely. So for you to need it to cover you, if you're like 5'9" or taller, basically, you need to. Yeah. Honey, if I come home today, like in a few hours, will you leave work?
Yeah, I would probably, if you got home in a few hours or were able to come back, I would probably leave work early so I could visit you, yes.
They gave me her jail calls. And again, for YouTube, I have to be really careful about what I say here. But in essence, Molly is this 25-year-old. I got to see when her birthday is. March. I'm assuming she turned 25 this year in March. And she's 25 years old. Beautiful, seemingly kind, smart, great woman who anyone could be fooled into hiring as their nanny. Well, she was used at least by 2 families. Lord knows how many more families may have used Molly. She babysat at least 2 different toddlers. And it turns out Molly was on Snapchat. Now remember, this is Molly Elizabeth Duncan. The Elizabeth is spelled with an S. And she's one out of Ohio. And she at the time had blonde hair. I'm only telling you the specifics because I've noticed other Molly Duncans out there, and I don't want people to just run and, people can act strange. I don't want people running to social media and just hitting up any Molly Duncan out of Ohio they see who's a nanny. It's a popular name apparently, and there can be many Molly Duncans. Anyway, we've been over Molly Duncan's case before. She was caught. In essence, this year, 2025, is when it all came crashing down for her. She was caught. These 2 toddlers she was watching as a nanny, she started filming deplorable things with the children. And she was sending these videos off via Snapchat to different people. One of the people she sent the videos to was a guy named Alex Hagee. A guy named Alex Hagee. He's in Indiana. He's also been arrested. Allegedly, he was the guy directing her what to film with these little, children, basically. Children young enough. I'm talking about children that are so young that they couldn't tell their parents. They're not that verbal, so they couldn't tell their parents when they came home, oh, Molly the nanny was doing this to me and filming me and doing this and that. No, I'm talking really young children. She was caught. Thank God for that ICIC, what is it, Internet Crimes Against Children or whatever it is. They catch a lot of these creepers doing creepy stuff, putting it online. It's a new day. That's my whole point of this video, warning parents about how Molly snaked into the lives of these families and fooled them. Molly Elizabeth Duncan, a white female, she was arrested in Ohio. And the whole series of 36 phone calls I'll, link to below, most of those took place during the first 10 days of her arrest. They were able to get a tip from this internet crimes, like something's going on here. These videos of children should not be happening. Find out who this is. Molly got arrested early. I believe it was March. It was March of this year. She spent about, 10 days in the Cuyahoga County jail initially, and boy, she's entertaining. Throughout her whole jail phone calls, you'll hear a lot of self-focus.
We might not have a choice in it, but as horrible as that might seem, you have to think it's better than jail.
Yes, but I can't stay with them.
I know. We'll face that when
I can't stay with them. I cannot. I cannot stay with them.
Like I said, baby, I don't know how this works. I don't know if you or they will have a choice in it. So we just have to wait and see. But the main thing to focus on is you're getting out of jail today. You're going to be able to eat food.
I can't stay with them. I can't stay with them.
Molly, we'll figure it out. I just don't know how this works. Don't get too worked up about it and in your head about it. We just don't know yet.
I can't stay with them.
You'll hear Molly going off about not taking a shower for so many days, and when she finally did, the water is so hot. And her hair, like she started taking her extensions out, and then she was claiming her hair was falling out. Molly's a vegan. She was complaining that there was no adequate vegan food in the jail, and I'm not saying that jail is any picnic, but Molly was kind of over the top. Focused on herself, having her mom and her boyfriend visit this one church who shouldn't be, related to this case at all. Molly just kept talking about that particular church for some reason. And she was just going off about missing her Starbucks and missing all this great food, and everything was very self-focused. Very, very self-focused. Well, for those of you who have read Molly's arrest affidavit, again, I won't get into the details over here on YouTube. They're horrific. But just doing what she did to the children, putting it on video, sending it to people, probably getting paid for it, I'm assuming. A materialistic woman putting her needs above everything else, everyone else. Not only that, what she did to these children that weren't hers, in the arrest affidavit, she goes through this sick plan, something I've really never heard before. her plan to marry some guy from Colorado, her dom or whatever as it were, and for them to have children and for them to raise their children, I'll just say not as, loving parents, innocent, loving, let's put them in activities and get them through school and whatever type of parents. No, it was some sick stuff she had planned for the children she planned to raise and birth. Horrible. And on the jail calls, she's talking with her boyfriend about, I can't wait to get out and have kids. Well, thankfully, she didn't get out and she's not out now. She was caught. So those first 10 days or so she spent in Cuyahoga County jail, she got out and was immediately picked up. I think it was by Medina County. So she was expecting to get out. Those 10 days were torture. She was telling her mom, it'll never be this bad again. And her mom's trying to tell her, Molly, basically, calm down. Life has ebbs and flows. And that's when she goes into that, no, it'll never be this bad again. No. And believe me, I'm not making fun of Molly. I never want to make fun of, or I don't want to denigrate people with mental health issues. The only reason I'm upset is that Molly used her own trauma, whatever she's been through, and I don't know what she's been through in life. Her mother alluded to it, something. She used her own trauma to inflict that same pain on other young people. And that's the part I don't understand. If someone's had a rough childhood, they've experienced things they should not have experienced. I hate to see people like that grow up and then repeat the cycle. It reminds me of R. Kelly. It's just horrible. I want people to heal and not go on and hurt other people. Anyway, Molly got out of one jail. She was picked up by another because she probably had charges in different counties. She ultimately ended up with the U.S. Marshals. And then I know she went to Mahoning County, I believe. They didn't have much on her. I'll put all the links below to the files I found. I think she was in Youngstown, Ohio or something. Then I lost track of her. I was like, where's Molly? And I was always checking the docket for her latest paperwork. Like, where's this case going? When is her trial starting? Well, that's when I learned Molly's lawyer and her parents and Molly's parents purchased her, one of the best lawyers in the land. And well, now Molly is going for the not guilty by reason of insanity criminal defense. Perhaps that's all Molly could go for, because according to the arrest affidavit, Molly confessed. According to police and investigators who wrote that court document, Molly confessed to creating these horrible videos. So it's not like Molly was saying, I'm innocent. I don't know how that got on my phone. That's not mine. She didn't say any of that. She allegedly confessed. So no wonder her lawyer is going for a not guilty by reason of insanity criminal defense. That's why Molly is in the custody right now of the Bureau of Prisons in a facility in Los Angeles, California. It's known as MDC Los Angeles, the Metropolitan Detention Center on North Alameda Street. And it does not look like a picnic. Let me tell you, I was looking it up. I saw TikTok videos and everything of how this place looks. It doesn't look like any place you want to be. It's a lot of activity going on around there. And I'm like, Molly probably is not having the time of her life. Well, Wildflower Molly, as she's known on Instagram, ultimately will have to make her way back to Ohio. If it goes to trial, Molly is going to stand trial. She's going to stand trial. If she keeps going with this not guilty by reason of insanity defense, I don't know if it'll work or not. If it does work, I guess part of my fear was, and this is the reason I glommed onto this case so much when I heard about it. First of all, it's this beautiful young nanny that anybody might decide to hire. It could be any parent, selecting her as a nanny to help out with the kids here and there. I glommed onto the case because you don't often see this modern day situation. A woman in this situation creating these horrible videos of kids, sending them off to people, probably getting paid, and just pulling the wool over so many people's eyes. I guess my fear was this, that it wouldn't get much press coverage, it would just go off with the FBI or whatever updates the reason I found it in the first place, and everything would be so undercover that perhaps Molly would just get off on a technicality, she would be found innocent or whatever, or it would be kind of quietly swept under the rug. Would she only serve a short amount of time? Would she get out? And then would she continue in her childbearing years to go ahead and enact this sick detailed plan, let me tell you, that she has that was noted from her messages. It's all listed in her arrest affidavit. In fact, ultimately that arrest affidavit was sealed, but I was able to purchase it beforehand because I was so fascinated with the case. I'd never seen anything like it. You know, there's messages, I won't get into details, but it's like, honey, you know, she's talking to this guy allegedly in Colorado, a creeper already, if he's accepting messages like this from her. And I'm not talking about her alleged fiance that you can hear on the jail calls, that you can hear talking on the jail calls. I don't know if her family or fiance or anyone knew anything about what Molly was doing online. Molly only references like, I'm not going to be online anymore. Yeah, I know you're not online, Molly, because she was in jail. You know, she's in jail when she's like saying, look, I'm not online anymore. Of course you're not, because you're in jail. You know, she's had a rough way to go, and she's been very self-focused and, you know, thought about not going on, but she's out there in LA trying to determine if she's reasonably sane to stand trial. So we'll see what they come back with. But if she is, I just didn't want this to go under the radar. Molly, get out. Let's say if she got out when she was 27, 28, 29, whatever, go ahead with her plans with this Colorado guy. Each stage of their children's life, okay, at 3 years old, we'll introduce them to this. And 4 years old, we'll introduce this. And 5 years old, we'll introduce this. Shocking things. Stuff some adults don't do, okay? They are plotting and planning ahead of how they're going to raise their children. And again, now, I'm not talking about, you know, teaching them a certain math concept at 5 years old, if you get my drift. Horrific. I guess that was my fear, that she would get off lightly, she would be allowed to get out and harm additional children. So anyway, this is the message I got from one of Molly's victims' mothers. She said, hi, I just wanted to thank you for covering the Molly Duncan case. My daughter is one of the survivors of her actions. Boy, that makes you want to cry. I love that she said survivors. And of course, this woman, I won't mention her name. She doesn't want her name out there. She doesn't want anyone to know it's her family that's been affected, and I totally honor that. Oh, it just gives me chills. I went through and looked at photos of her beautiful family, everything her family's already survived, you know, outside of Molly. And it looks like this beautiful little girl is thriving. And that is my prayer. Because when I first started covering this case and thinking of this case, and I would walk around at a local park and I was thinking, just imagine one of Molly's victims lived near here. Oh my goodness. And now to hear from the mom and see the actual photos and know that her family is okay. Thank God. So she doesn't want her name out there, of course. We don't want, you know, any victims identified, especially in a case like this. Oh my goodness. She says, I greatly appreciate the coverage. You're the only person that I've come across covering this. That's one common comment I've been getting in all these jail calls, you know, in the comment section, or every time I cover this case. A lot of people are like, wait, why haven't I heard about this? You know, and I get it. There's unfortunately so many crime cases, but this one, I just thought it really needed light shed on it. And not only, this is the reason why, because it also can help so many parents and prevent so much of this abuse, because it's beyond the standard of the creeper, you know, in the raincoat type of guy we were used to growing up with. There was no internet. There was just these weird guys who might flash people or, you know, do weird things. It wasn't like some 25-year-old nanny. And this mom found her on care.com, mind you. That's another thing I want to warn people about. It's not like some young female posing online that she just wants a job as a nanny. We didn't deal with this back in the day. We didn't have Telegram and Snapchat. It wasn't in the realm of our possibilities in my mind, that this girl could be doing this. Like a long-term plan. I don't know if Molly went into being a nanny just to target the parents of toddlers, but this is my warning to the parents of toddlers and all children of all ages, or even elderly caregivers, who knows. Some people are on there, they have sick plans. They don't want to just be a nanny. Now, of course, there's some wonderful people on care.com. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I've read so many comments. Some people are like, we found our nannies on care.com. They were great. And that's so great. I mean, I'm so grateful for the nannies I found. Via KinderCare, my kids were already kind of used to them. And so there were women, a couple of them I knew, and I just used them a little bit when my husband and I wanted to just go out on date night for a couple hours. But it is a warning to parents to be aware. There are women like Molly out there. I mean, she might smile in your face. She might seem like she's the best ever nanny. She might seem like she's so attentive and innocent and loves children, when behind the scenes, she's on Snapchat and Telegram and taking videos that she shouldn't of your children, sending them off to these weirdos and probably getting paid for it. It's a whole new world. That's why I really wanted people to know about this case. It's not just about Molly. It's about staying aware and active and doing what we can. I know some people choose the I'd rather bury my head in the sand type of extreme, or, they try and protect their children, and I get why they do this. Sometimes they don't let their children have any phones, no access to the internet. I understand that too. Maybe sometimes the answer could be to let them have limited access and know that, you'll do real-time tracking, look for legitimate real-time trackers, or even using a nanny, even if you've background checked that person as much as you can. I mean, care.com allegedly performs some type of background checks. You'll have to read the fine print. However, I always recommend doing your own. And beyond that, I don't know what a background check on a woman like Molly would have turned up anyway. I don't think she has any history, any record that a background checker could have found that would let people know that she was even doing anything like this or capable of doing anything like this. Anyway, the mom went on to tell me, thank you so much. The craziest part is we went through care.com too. And so that did kind of take me aback. That surprised me, because you might think, okay, I'm logging on here and I think hopefully they're background checked enough. Hopefully these people are good people, and maybe a lot of them are. But just know some of them are on there with nefarious purposes. Some of them are not on there to find some $18 per hour nanny job or how much ever, it happens. Some people are on there looking at this as a means to an end. Like, who knows how much videos like that go for? How would I ever know? And it's these people, some of them, thankfully, they're not just on the dark web. They're right there on Snapchat sending off stuff that they think it won't get seen. Maybe some of it doesn't get seen, but some of it does get caught, thankfully. And this mom says, I believe the first video you posted, you shared a Bible verse, and I remember just bawling hearing it. And that just made me feel like, yes, scripture, it's helping to heal. Like these awful, awful situations. I used to just try and end my videos like, I felt like I was leaving people like just dropping them off the bottom of a cliff. Kind of like my sister, she hates true crime. I won't say hate, but she's not a true crime person. But whenever I'm talking about a true crime case and blah, 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 we always have to end it with an up note, because it's like, okay, you've told me about that horrific murder or whatever. Can we talk about something happy? So it's almost like scripture giving us beyond happiness. It's that joy. It's that deeper message. It's that healing comfort for people who have been through so much. So when we're discussing this true crime case, that's why I often ended with a Bible verse. And I remember reading some comment on one channel. It's like, oh, she puts true crime with Christianity or whatever, scripture. That seems at odds. And I was thinking to myself, lady commenting, don't you know the Bible is full of true crime stories? It's true crime all up and down in the Bible, because they're human beings back then like we are now. But anyway, back to this mom. This mom said Molly basically had us all fooled. So luckily, her little girl that was impacted, she doesn't remember Molly, thankfully. I pray that little girl is healing and thriving in Jesus. So Molly's off at that MDC Los Angeles Center, that Administrative Security Metropolitan Detention Center. She's trying to, say, look, I'm not guilty by reason of insanity. So she's being evaluated on the West Coast, and hopefully we should see her back here soon. Now, as far as when Molly's trial will take place, who knows? That's another question. I know with the Letitia Stout case, Letitia Stout, that evil step monster in Colorado who was guilty of taking the life of little Gannon Stout. Letitia was trying to go for, of course, not guilty by reason of insanity also. Thankfully, it didn't work for her. Now, Molly's a different story. I don't know if it will work for her or not, because Molly does have a history. In fact, the latest subpoenas I saw in Molly's case, I'm always checking her court documents, they were sending subpoenas, issuing subpoenas to all these different medical professionals. Molly talks about it during her jail phone calls. She talks a lot about the people who have treated her in the past and how they're issuing subpoenas to these people, these professionals, these mental health professionals treated Molly. So I don't know what they will say in court if it truly does go to court, a long trial. I hope all the biggies cover it, court TV. And because of the nature of this case, though, I know there will be some restrictions, guidelines, but people know how to protect victims. They know how to redact things that don't need to be made public, but still make the public aware that women like Molly exist. Now, with this mom, I was thinking with mothers or parents, whomever, when they turn to sites like care.com and they're kind of putting their trust in the fact that, okay, you say you've vetted these people, you've background checked these people. I know there are different ways that people can perform or pay for additional background checks, but then if you look on Reddit, they're saying, oh, that's a scam. This is someone else's opinion. The background check only covers this and it's not thorough enough. I don't know. If you just Google care.com nanny arrested, you will see different instances of nannies and caregivers arrested for doing some pretty horrible things, some horrible crimes. So my whole point is take it with a grain of salt. Do your own background checking. Do whatever is legal to try and protect your own children. However that means, whatever the legalities are of cameras all over your home, as long as it's not, illegally violating someone's privacy. But whatever you have to do to make sure, to go over and above and make sure that nanny is the person they're claiming to be. They might show up like Mary Poppins and they're the devil in disguise, sending crazy videos to creepers all around the land. Anyway, we will see. It's scary that Molly was close to children. How long has she been doing this? She's been caught with these two particular children. How many more children were there? Were there any more? When did it start? These are the questions I have in my mind when I see a case like this. These are the two she was caught creating crazy videos and sending these crazy videos around about, but were there more cases that, did it just build up and she finally got caught or what? That's my question. So in this instance, does care.com have culpability? Where does their culpability lie? Who knows? A lawsuit might be in order. I don't know. I'm no lawyer, but my whole point is to absolutely warn parents. That's what this victim's mother told me. And Molly, I found another picture of her and I was like, oh man, look at her back then. She was on some tennis team or something, whatever. And it seems like she was nearby young children. And we were thinking of different instances where she was near this school. And my whole point is that I know a lot of people out there, for example, might not ever hire a manny. They might not ever hire a man. Because some people might have, the false assumption or false thinking that, oh no, I'm not going to have a man near my kids. Who would want to be a manny? Well, the truth is there might be thousands, who knows how many great mannies out there compared to a woman like Molly who fooled at least two families into trusting them with their toddlers. So don't just think because a sweet little blonde woman shows up and she seems great that she's just not this sinister. You know how Satan masquerades as an angel of light. That's probably how Molly showed up in these people's lives. So what will care.com's culpability be, if anything? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe Molly might have had some kind of history that I didn't find that others, Private Eyes or whomever could find. As far as I know, she didn't have a criminal record. Care.com bills itself as one of those sites to find reliable and trusting care. And have they ever been sued in a situation like this before? I was wondering, what could happen before? What was their culpability? I found that Care.com did settle a lawsuit with the FTC. This was just last year, in August 2024. It was for $8.5 million, but this is only because of deceptive advertising, misrepresenting job availability, earnings for caregivers. It says using dark patterns to make it difficult for users to cancel subscriptions. So that's more monetarily. So I'm wondering, okay, what about in other instances like this? Will this case set a precedent? Another case related closely to Molly's case is the case of the state of Indiana versus Alec Hagee. Alec Hagee, he was one of the guys Molly was sending the videos to. Internet sleuths put it all together, wait a minute, reading his details. And I've talked about him before, and I'll link to his paperwork or whatever I can find. He was one of the puppet masters allegedly pulling the strings, telling Molly, do this. I don't know how she found these guys. Maybe Molly will be more forthcoming. I don't know how this whole thing came about. How did she get in touch with the Colorado creeper? And this Indiana creeper, he was an RBT, a behavioral therapist. So he worked around children, but he seemed pretty honest too. He wouldn't creep on the children at his job, the special needs children. He said because there was too many protocols in place. Thank God. I guess coworkers watching, he couldn't do that. But he did admit to doing some horrible things, at least to an infant and others. It's disgusting. Anyway, apparently he has on October 8th, 2025, this dispositional hearing coming up. They're going to set his trial too. So sometimes these people might plead out. They might not go to trial. They might accept their fate and say, look, I don't want any more attention, beyond this YouTuber lady who keeps talking about our case. We don't want this to hit national and international news. So sometimes they end up, especially in cases like this, like Stephen Stearns. That was different. He was charged with not only the creepy stuff, but also taking the life of his girlfriend's daughter, Madeline Soto. She was only 13, had just turned 13. He did a plea deal to escape the death penalty. Now, with Molly and Alec, their charges are still pretty serious. They aren't murder charges, but still, will they accept a plea deal? Will they not really go to trial? We will see. So these are just a couple of the cases related that I am keeping my eye on. And I just thank God for that mom's message. It kind of just shows me not everybody is with the ish. There is some positive to what we're doing here. Just digging, the gift of being able to research and follow through and be consistent and learn and follow these cases and just learning new things. It really helps me pass along my knowledge to parents, especially parents of young children, taking things at face value and trying to run their lives, and they're busy and maybe they still want date nights and, need a couple of hours out to go to dinner, and you're trusting this beautiful young woman that shows up claiming to be so great with children. Lord knows, she could be on Telegram, she could be on Snapchat, and these videos, wherever, it makes you wonder. It's got to make you, feel like, where did all these videos go? Who has possession of them? Kind of like in the Stephen Stearns case, so many videos of Madeline Soto. And not only that, 1,700 files, images, videos of her, but also 35,000 or something images of other victims. And it makes you wonder, who's floating all those around? And they're out there, but, parents can't drive themselves crazy, I guess, with that knowledge. You just have to lean on the Lord and know justice is coming. So I like to follow through and see these victims get their justice. And I'm so grateful that at least this one mom appreciated the story of Molly Duncan being put out there more. And maybe even Molly can see herself in a different perspective. When she went to jail, all she basically saw was what she was missing, her plight. She did, of course, she knew the calls were being recorded, so she wasn't going to confess to any major thing on the jail phone call. There were moments where she did sound very grieved. She cried. You know, she wanted a do-over in life. She wanted to do things over. She wanted to do things better. She wanted to go forward and be, you know, the best mom, the best girlfriend, the best wife, the best mother ever. But is she really ready for that? Was she really rehabilitated? Does she need to really figure out why she did the things she did? Like, where did she meet these guys? Lord only knows. Probably some crazy, you know, website, FET, whatever, you know. But did she start this whole process, this horrible thinking? Or was she just at a nanny job and FaceTiming the dude, and did the dude all of a sudden say, hey, you know, I'll pay you $50 if you do this? Or I wonder how it all came about. Maybe Molly will end up spilling the beans. And again, all of this is a cautionary tale, and it helps parents protect their children in this age of digital stuff. And I know a lot of people are pretty techie, and I can be pretty techie too. But I knew nothing about like young women doing this kind of thing, pretending to be great nannies. But maybe that's why this case just gripped me so much, because of just how slimy and unusual it is based on who you expect to be doing this type of thing. You don't always expect a woman. And I think that's, you know, that was my misconception. And maybe I can disabuse many, many people of that misconception too. You know, don't just trust some cute little girl coming in your house thinking she's really wanting a nanny job and just wanting to give you and your husband a break to go to the movies for a couple hours or go to dinner or whatever. So stay tuned, of course. I'm following up on this and many other cases. And if you want to read more about it, look below. Or if you want to listen to all her crazy jail calls, I put over on my other body cam channel, I'll link to that playlist too. For now, let's close with 2 Corinthians 6, 1-2. As God's fellow workers then, we urge you not to receive God's grace in vain. For he says, in the time of favor I heard you, and in the day of salvation I helped you. Behold, now is the time of favor. Now is the day of salvation. Thanks for watching.